Hey guys, American Pizza Books here. So I'm back with another video, and this is going to be another book review, and this is going to be on The Tommyknockers by Stephen King. Hopefully that's a thumbnail. But anyways, that's my first time doing that. But anyways, so yeah, this Tommyknockers came out in 1987, I believe. Um, And Stephen King has talked about this book. It's right around the time before he kind of cleaned himself up from from drinking like alcohol and everything, from being an alcoholic and everything. So it's kind of before he cleaned himself up a little bit. He has talked about this book, Tommyknockers, and he's actually said he doesn't like this book. He says that he doesn't like this book. He thinks it's a horrible book, actually. And it seems like Stephen King fans kind of share that sentiment. It seems like not all Stephen King fans, but it seems like a good number of them don't really like this book. Like I've heard people say that this is probably they kind of agree with King and say that this is one of his worst books or one of his more. I wouldn't say any of his books are really terrible. Like they're all readable, but like this would be like if any of his books would be like not that great, not his best, this would be one of them. But honestly, I have to disagree. I've read this and I actually really enjoyed this. I really liked this book. I thought it was very suspenseful. It had a good atmosphere. It was very creepy at times. Really good characters, especially the main character, which I'll get into in a minute. But interesting plot. It has to do with like aliens and like but yeah, but I thought this was really good. I mean, I thought it could be slow at times. It was slow in the beginning, but that's because Stephen King was developing the characters and the setting and everything, which I don't mind. I think that's one of the things Stephen King does best, so I didn't mind that. But yeah, so basically the premise of this is that one of the main characters, Bobby Anderson, she kind of lives out, kind of in the by herself out. She writes her book. She's an author. She writes westerns and everything, and she's walking her dog Peter, her little beagle Peter, and she stumbles across something in the ground, and it's a metal, it's something metal. So she starts to, she kind of gets a compulsion from it, and she basically starts to want to dig it up. So that's basically what starts happening, and you find out that this thing in the ground is basically like a saucer or something, like a spaceship or a saucer or something. And slowly, as the book goes on, you start to see that this saucer, the spaceship, kind of has like starts to get this control over the people in the town, and the people in the town start to become like really, they start developing and changing. They call it I think they call it the becoming. They are becoming. That's what the phrase that they use. Well, like everyone in the town starts like losing teeth and they can like hear each other's thoughts. Like the whole town kind of creates like a whole mind hive. Like they can hear everything that anyone else is thinking and everything. It's pretty creepy. And you see some characters because you do get the main characters, but you also introduced to some other characters in the book. One is the mayor. I forget her name, but she is like the mayor of the town, and she hasn't really succumbed to it yet. Like she's losing teeth, so it's affecting her, but she hasn't succumbed to it yet. But you see her, you just see her like witnessing other people in the town that she's known start changing and just like becoming and everything, and they're starting to just get really weird and everything, and kind of it starts getting kind of malevolent and everything. So it's really very creepy, and like I said, very creepy, very atmospheric, and I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, people really just start changing and becoming these other beings. And it's kind of hinted in the book that there were other beings like this before, but they crashed into where the ship was. And then towards the later part of the book, Bobby Anderson and the other character Jim Gardner, who I'll get into in a minute, but they kind of explore they do eventually go inside the ship, and they explore it, and they find like just bodies, the dead bodies of like the species, the people that were on there before, basically the aliens that were on there before. And they go into a room, and there's like a bunch of like hammocks and everything, just with all of the aliens, just all the dead aliens and everything, and it's really creepy. But the other character, the other main character, and basically the protagonist of this book, is Jim Gardner. and I really liked Jim Gardner. I really thought he was a good character. He reminded me of Jack Torrance from The Shining a little bit. You know, he's an alcoholic. He's kind of fallen on bad times and everything, and he's basically like a traveling poet in the beginning of the book. But eventually, I mean, his life is just spiraling out of control, and he's actually about to commit suicide. But then he gets this feeling that something is happening where Bobby is, and he kind of gets this concern for Bobby. So he goes to Haven, the town of Haven, where all this happens. And him and Bobby kind of have a history, but like he goes back to Haven to Bobby and everything, and he kind of just starts getting involved in this stuff that's going on in the town. And yeah, so that's basically the basic premise, the basic plot of it all. But yeah, and also like to point out, Jim Gardner is actually immune to what's going on because he has a metal plate in his head, so it has a harder time. It has a harder time penetrating him. Now, I will say, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but towards as you go on further and further into the book, Jim Gardner, like, it starts to affect him eventually. Like, eventually it's able to, like, I guess, get through the metal plate. Like, the metal plate makes him immune for a while, but eventually it does start affecting him. He does start, like, losing teeth like everyone else, and not really changing, but some of the effects that had on the other residents of the town, it starts to happen to him as well. But yeah, so I mean, then, like I said, you get other characters that come in. There's like a reporter that goes into the town, and you see him go, because whenever anyone who isn't living in the town, when they go into the town, they get like nauseous and they start like getting nosebleeds and everything. It starts having a really, because they're not used to the effects, and you see that happen to the reporter. And then what ends up happening to him is just like really, really chilling. Like you're almost telling him like, don't go to the town. Like get out, get away from there. But he goes into the town anyways for reasons. I won't say any more about that. I guess there was one thing that I guess you could knock it for, and it's one scene. There's a flying Coke machine in this book, and it ends up killing one of the characters that tries to get into the town, and I didn't know whether to be like disturbed or just like, I didn't know how to really feel about it. I was like, oh, flying Coke machine? I don't really know how to feel about that. That seems a little silly to me, but hey, I mean, one of my favorite books by Stephen King is about a haunted car, so I mean, who am I to judge that? But yeah, I mean, I can't really find anything to really criticize or complain about. I thought it was a good book. I mean, I'd even go as far as to say that it's better than It. And I know that might get me some shit because I've done a review of It, and it's funny because most people love It and they don't really care for this book, whereas I right now really like this book. And I don't care for It. The movie was the most recent movie was pretty good, but the book I'm kind of indifferent about. But yeah, so that's basically what the book was about. That's basically my thoughts on it. I thought it was pretty good. I can't really think of anything to knock it for. I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5, to be really honest. I enjoyed it that much. I mean, maybe it was because my expectations were kind of low because of all the negative stuff surrounding this book. But no, I mean, I ended up really enjoying it. I thought it was, again, creepy. It was scary. It had good characters that you rooted for and sympathized with. I was sad when it ended. I wanted to stay with, like with Jim Gardner and some of these other characters. I wanted to keep following them, but unfortunately, it's unfortunate because none of the characters from this book really appear in other works of Stephen King's. Probably because Stephen King, like I said, doesn't like this book himself. He's even said he doesn't like this book. But yeah, so I thought it was a good time. Let me know what you guys think. What did you think of Tommyknockers? Do you kind of feel the same way that a lot of fans feel about it? Did you not like it, or did you like it, or did you kind of in the middle or something? Let me know. And yeah, so that's my review on the Tommyknockers, and that's it for this one. So, peace, and keep on reading.